Hello, everybody, and welcome to our conversation this week around why Black Lives Matter. Today, we're going to be exploring the person of color villain complex, and I think it's it's an important narrative to explore and also to heal, given that there's been a prevalence of not only the portrayal of people of color as villains from a media point of view, but also just some hate crimes that are often mostly targeted at people of color. And so part of our healing today is going to be around just sharing that feeling of being wrong, where you're the only person of color in a room and something, for instance, goes wrong, or your opinion is not taken as seriously, or you just actually sometimes feel that you don't belong because you're the only person of color. And so anything that you do or say starts to be seen in a less than positive light. So Anastasia and both Kanisha have components to share around their stories and some of the healing that they've done. And yes, the rest of us will share as we feel guided to. And we invited all of you to share your insights, thoughts, and experiences around the topic of people of color as the villain in various instances or under various circumstances. So I'm going to open the conversation to the team, and we're just going to have a very organic conversation about how we feel guided to share our stories. So for anybody that's interested, our conversation is specifically targeted at people of color, but the villain complex that kind of gets internalized as you grow up, because you're possibly not the majority in the room, or you're possibly seen as the militant person in the room, or sometimes you may just be seen as the conscientious objector in the room. And so I feel like on a level that does take away from sharing in a healthy manner, and also addressing things that may need to be addressed, even though they're uncomfortable to address and uncomfortable to raise. I think it is an important space for us to feel into and heal into, because the narrative does impact the experience, and it also impacts the continued narrative. So I'm going to open the floor to everybody and thank everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for introducing us. So I have experienced myself just through communication with a class one time. We were going over racist matters, and one of the things that was brought up by another student was, and it was something I was told as a child too, is that if you're in a room with predominantly white people and you're the only Black person and something goes missing, you would be the first person that they would look at. And I remember being really surprised at hearing this, because it didn't make sense to me. But as I got older and I started witnessing things like that along the line of people of color being the first to be blamed because we hold on to this belief that we have less than, or that people of color have to take to get what they want over people, white people just have what they have and receive what they need. So it really comes from this like lack mentality, this the lack consciousness of thinking that people of color have to take to be able to receive what they want. But also what came of that, even myself, by doing some healing this week, is always having this feeling of like I'm always in trouble, even though I didn't do anything, especially being a person who is usually the only person of color in a room. I do find that I find myself being uncomfortable and feeling like if something goes wrong, why do I feel like I'm going to be the one who's in trouble here? And really having to heal through that, and recognizing that it's really deeply rooted in the African American culture of either being blamed for something that happened. You see it in the movies where like a white man raped a woman and somehow the black man is in trouble. I think the movie Green Mile is coming to me right now with Tom Hanks in it. Things like that of really like just turning the blame onto people of color, because it seems like, I don't know why in society, but it seems like because they would be the people to do that. So yeah, I found myself being really frustrated and angry this week as I realized I was still holding on to this belief that I'm not innocent and that I'm not pure, and that somewhere because of like my color, I'm tainted in some way. And so it's really required me to do some deep healing and really bring love to that space within myself. But really starting to realize how that is still being shown in society.
So if you feel into that feeling now, how are you actually feeling about having come to that realization and gone through that healing process in this week?
Just a little bit of sadness there, but really just truly claiming my power and knowing my truth and standing in my truth. I had to really ground the fact that only I can create in my reality, and really trusting that my inner work was working. There was a part of me that really wanted to be defensive about my inner work, defensive on if I was doing it right or doing enough of it, instead of really just surrendering to God. And once I did that, it just was a very clear reminder that only love is real, and that I can't be hurt in this space unless I choose to be hurt in this space.
And what is the sadness pointing to right now?
That mostly that like my brothers, and that there's still brothers and sisters who have this belief that they can be hurt in this space and that they don't have power here.
And so there's still a part of you that believes you don't have power here.
Yeah.
And what does that part of you need right now to fully embrace your power in this space?
To really self-control to God, and to know that I'm not responsible for my brothers and sisters.
And so when you choose to do that, what do you get in its place? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So when you choose to release that feeling and that responsibility, what replaces it?
Peace.
Can you allow that peace just to kind of ground here and just sit in the peace? Knowing that you and your brothers and sisters all have God equally.
Exactly. Yeah. It was that same upset of like people looking at people of color as if they're lacking something. And that's the same upset that I was holding on to. I choose to know that none of God's children are lacking God. It's only their belief.
And choosing that Does it feel complete, or is there something that you can go deeper with here?
Feels like there's something else there.
Do you just want to breathe right down to your core and let that next feeling surface? What is that next feeling?
There's like some defensiveness, like I have to protect my good. I protect myself.
But is that true? Where does your protection come from, and where does your good come from?
From God.
And so does it need to be protected, or is it always yours?
It's always mine.
And so it can't be taken away regardless of what the outside illusion might be trying to show you, right?
Yeah.
So can you allow God to fill up that space with the peace and the love and the safety and the protection that you are seeking right now?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel right now?
Safe.
Sorry, say that again.
Safe.
You feel safe. Good. Does it feel complete? Or is there a next layer to it?
I guess there's like judgment coming up next. A little bit of anger towards like those who choose to like fit the stereotype of like being one to steal or like having to take to have their good, almost like how do I explain this? Like I guess what it is like there are, if you were to look at it, there are a lot of Black men who do get in trouble for stealing or for like doing drugs. So I guess there's a part of me that's upset with them for like choosing to fit that stereotype or to show up in that stereotype. Does that make sense?
So you're upset with yourself for allowing a stereotype into your reality that's not your truth.
Yes. Thank you, Granville. Yeah. Okay. I see that part of myself.
What does that you need right now?
To accept her true divinity.
And in her divinity and in her reality, is there place for stereotypes?
No.
Good. What is there place for?
Unconditional love and truth.
Amen.
Peace.
Amen. Do you choose to allow that evidence to be presented to you permanently across all areas of your life?
Yeah, I do choose that.
How does that feel?
Yeah, that feels complete now.
Awesome. Do you just want to allow all of that to just ground into your body and just welcome all those parts of you that have just healed so beautifully with all of us?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Okay, so our first card is surrender frustration. Frustration doesn't open any doors. The key to resolving a dilemma or dissolving a block is to take a breath, center yourself, and regroup so that you may approach the situation more calmly.
Yep, that feels good.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I related to everything that Kanisha said because I always felt that like, because I mean I grew up with like full white siblings, and I was like always the one to, I guess, like be blamed. And then like even my family was like predominantly white, and then like my aunt had mixed children because she married a black man, and like my whole family was segregated. And then like I was born, and then I was like, it changed things a lot because like my grandfather was involved in the KKK. So he had to leave the KKK because he was associated with a black person. And then like my family kind of came back together and like got over this. But like basically, I was thinking like for a while, I'm like, oh, like I don't really, not that I don't deal with racism, but like I didn't realize, like I kind of numbed out to it for a while and was just kind of like, no, like I'm not dealing with that. But then like it's been like I guess for the past like 5 months or something, it's been like coming up a lot, like I guess like what we were talking about in the chat before we had this discussion of like the bad guy thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like always like having that come up of like, oh well, you're part black, so like there's something wrong with you, or like you're bad, or yeah.
Right. So can you just take a moment to just breathe into that space? Because I feel like there's a lot of components, and I feel like you just
Oh yes.
you need to first choose to just integrate all the components of you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just allow all those parts to come back. Welcome them back. If it's showing up in your reality in some form, whether you were younger or older, there's a part of you there. So just welcome them all back. Just let them come home.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
Right. So now that you're allowing them to just integrate, don't judge them, don't attach meaning to them, just allow them to integrate. What is the feeling that sits underneath that?
Just, I guess, just not liking my own self.
Just not?
Yeah, like that's what's coming up, is like that's why this has been going on.
Not liking yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
So what do you need in order to like yourself?
Yeah, just to accept myself unconditionally for who I am.
Mm-hmm. And can you just choose to like yourself? Because if God didn't like you, you wouldn't be here.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? So it's kind of a thing of let's align to God's view and perception of us, and just start with liking ourselves. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to find anything or be anything. We just actually have to accept that God did not make a mistake in this space.
Amen, Granville. Mm-hmm.
So how does that feel?
That feels good because, yeah, like this whole movement in general, right, is like a big deal. And it's like kind of hard to look at it from like, how did this all like happen? Like that's too much. So like you said, it's just liking our own selves. because that's
do
God's.
you really need to understand how it happened, or do you just need to do your part of the healing?
Yeah, just my part.
Mm. And doesn't it feel so much better that you don't have to take on the whole healing process?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
cool is that? Right. So now that we've cleaned that vibration up, what is the actual feeling?
It just feels peaceful.
Mm.
Yeah.
How simple is your peace? And how simply did your peace return to you?
Very simply.
Right.
Very simply. That's great.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about being able to heal your upsets in real time. It's not as big as what we thought it was.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah. Amen.
How cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you just want to allow all of that to just integrate and welcome all of that home?
Yeah, because
Now,
that feels
yeah.
a lot better.
Awesome. Does it feel complete, or is there an additional space to go into? Because now we can talk about the narrative, right? Because the narrative isn't scattered anymore. That's what I was saying to you. Just let it integrate first. Because then you can find the core of what it is that you would like to share.
Yeah. I guess it's just this feeling of not belonging is really like what all of that is. Like even like the whole story I already said, just feeling like I don't belong. Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't belong here, where do you belong?
I belong here.
Right? Right. And and I say that to you because I've gone through that process as well of feeling like I don't belong. But the fact of the matter is, if I didn't belong here, I wouldn't be here. So there's a reason for my existence, there's a purpose for my existence. And so I can comfortably let go of a vibration that I may have absorbed inadvertently. And it's something that I kind of worked through with my coaches, Kobe and Keely, on Monday as well, was just kind of in childhood, even though things are not said to you, where people operate at certain vibrational levels, you have no choice but to integrate it because you're not spiritually advanced enough not to integrate it. So kids absorb things. And like, the feeling I had after healing some of that stuff was just of wringing out a sponge, like letting some of the crap go. Because it just makes no sense. And that's why I asked you a question, and it sounds nonsensical, but just knowing that thought process exists tells you that there's some nonsensicalness to it, right? Like I don't belong. Like, so where do you belong?
Yeah, it's like when you ask that question, it's like, obviously here.
Right. And so again, it's the simple return to peace that you're open to. That's why it happens so simply and so easily.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really easy. Like, I don't know, just like prepping myself up to have this conversation with you before it seemed like it was going to be like this big deal. But
it
yeah,
is
you
a big
really
deal. It's your story. But it doesn't have to be such a big deal that you can't tell your story. Right?
Yeah.
You have ownership rights to your story. And so you get to share whichever components of your story you want to, in which way you want to. And you don't have to do it for anybody on a stage. It's where you are right now. It's how peacefully you feel about sharing it. It's how peacefully the share is because you've healed the underlying core of the feeling.
Yeah. Amen. And I think you summed it up with like, like this is God's truth. Look at God, like how God sees you. Because I mean, we're never gonna like ever control, the world to like give that to us. So it's like, well, God made me, so like I'm perfect.
And you have it already. Your good can't leave. It may be that you need to just let go of quite a few illusions about where your good actually is, but it can't leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So, how do you feel now?
I feel good now. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Do you want to popcorn somebody, or do you want to go deeper here?
I would like to popcorn
Okay.
somebody. I feel like Marley is really eager.
Yeah, I'm just bursting. Because like Keely shared in our group coaching yesterday night that like the world has like this game of blaming and like of like kind of like the world's point is to make you feel worthless, like the world as it is right now. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, a little triggering, but like it's kind of true, right? Because like the world's pretty messed up at the moment. That's what we're healing, right? Like we just saw those hate crimes with Asian Americans, and like we've seen like throughout like history and with the media of like this thing coming up over and over again of like teaching like people who aren't white that they're worthless or that they're bad. And and it's important to like recognize that like this is the game that the world's playing right now, but you don't need to accept it. You're in charge of your reality, and you don't need to give your power to this dumb idea that you are worthless. That's just not true. So yeah, I think that's just like, yeah, it's really cool that we're able to recognize this and like see like, wow, like there is really crappy stuff happening in our consciousness as divine children, but we don't need to accept it. Yeah.
The card that we have right now is forgiveness. You are now able to activate the power of love in order to release past hurt.
Yeah, so the feeling that kind of came up for me when we were talking about this topic was that whole, I like the thing that you mentioned about kind of being wrong and where that actually comes from. So not only being wrong, but doing the wrong thing. And even when you're not doing the wrong thing, kind of being singled out as the person doing the wrong thing, right? So the thing that I, like when I felt into it, it was like, at some point in my childhood, that probably existed. But I also feel like it changed quite significantly because I was in positions of leadership and I was the person that kind of set the tone for what happened in an environment. So as opposed to thinking I'm wrong to get people to toe the line, it was very much, it was a lot easier for me to go, well, actually, like I have the power here and you need to do the right thing, whether you like it or not. So I feel like in my life that like just sort of living through my career has helped me kind of release quite a bit of that energy. But again, coming back to the core of it was almost this feeling of there's something wrong with me, that we kind of internalize, that becomes that almost villain complex. So, and I think it's what Marley was speaking to around believing that you're a bad person. You know, and I know you didn't mention it in this conversation, but it has been like over the couple of months that we've been talking, it constantly comes up that there's a sense of possibly all of us that has that component that just makes us almost believe or see ourselves as bad. And one of the things that I've kind of worked through in this last week was like, well, so what if I'm bad? Am I really that bad? Or am I sitting in a vibration that it's not actually mine, but I internalized? And when I started feeling into it, it was some childhood conditioning because of the fact that the people around me weren't comfortable to show up as their full selves. And so them being a watered down version of themselves was a vibration that I adopted. And yet there's no value in it. Like if you feel into that concept of a watered down version of yourself vibration, what does it actually mean? Because you learn about components of yourself as you go on your journey. So what is actually watered down? Aren't we more in a kind of remembering and discovering phase than a watered down phase? So I want to kind of open that to all of you and see like how you feel about that.
Well, that reminded me of this show I just like finished on Netflix. It's called Ginny in Georgia. It's like this new one. Actually, it's based on like the towns, like the area where I grew up, which is kind of weird. But the main character is half white, half black. And like she's in a really white high school, which is kind of what I went to, you know, there's not a lot of black students, and the black students who did come were from the MEPCO program that like they were from like this, you know, around Boston, like the major city in Massachusetts. So anyways, the main character kind of like was numbing out to like her blackness and was trying to fit into like this majority white environment. And then her dad, who's black, came to visit her and saw she was like kind of doing this. So he invited her to explore her other part of her and embrace that more. So, and she was able to like discover like herself more by doing that, embracing both sides. And you know, it's unfortunate like that kind of thing still happens. Like I saw like my peers that were black trying to fit in too, to this white environment, or like kind of more isolating themselves, feeling like they couldn't really connect, or something like that was happening. And like what like we're working on right now in this group is like learning how to just connect by being completely authentic, like completely ourselves no matter what. And you know, and feeling really safe in that, and feeling like, you know, it's not going to hurt us, no one's going to judge us. Because, you know, that's another thing Colby brought up in our group coaching. Like we've been judged a lot in our lives for like everything and we've internalized that, and we're just learning how to let that go and just be completely ourselves and create environments where we can feel really like safe being completely ourselves.
What that reminded me of was a part of my education. I think I talked already about it. I was, after high school, I integrated one of a really like elite school of like social sciences. And it was really good and interesting, but like some teachers were, whatever I did, like I was always wrong. So I always ended up with bad grades, and eventually it led to me quitting the school. But I was always wrong, even when I was working hard in their classes, even when I was doing everything that they said. It felt like I was always, I don't know, it was just never right. And like something was uncomfortable about it. And nobody was talking about it, and nobody could point me to what the truth was about that. So I struggled for like about 3 years to understand that. And I never did. And yeah, and also I was like probably the girl with the darkest skin in the school, like in my year, and there were like very few Black people, unfortunately, as it happens in schools like these. And so I realized like yeah, I was trying to fit in and water down my leadership. I think we already talked about that here. Like Black people are meant to be leaders, like now and in the coming years, and kind of lead the way of change, I guess, and evolution. And so I feel like I was watering down me being a leader to kind of fill in, because I felt like an imposter. Um, I felt like I didn't belong here. And also, I feel like my teachers were upset to see that a Black person could succeed. I think it happens quite a lot in France. Like, I feel like quite a lot of white people are upset that people of color are succeeding in things. And so they try to blame them for every little thing. And so unfortunately, it happened also this week at work for me. So I guess it came up because of this topic of being the villain. But if I have Black people are really like demonized, like whatever they do. And so what I'm saying today is that the more I claim my leadership, like the more people are upset with me. So like it's whatever I do, I will never win with ego, you know. I could not play the game of ego, because if I water down my leadership, I'm gonna face attack. And if I claim my leadership, well, ego will try to attack me anyway. So I feel it's just I feel relief as I said, as I say this, but I feel like it's just yeah, realizing that it's important to claim your leadership and to lead the way to peace and heaven that way.
Screw the haters.
Okay, so Irene, just when you like when you were talking through it, is there still a feeling or a sense within you that attack is real?
Yeah, there's
And what do you need in that space to release the illusion? So what is the core of the upset here?
like it's what I've been told like all these years. It's a feeling that, well, no matter what I do, I will always fail, I guess.
Mm. So is it a fear of being your powerful self that is allowing you to feel like no matter what you do, you're always going to be wrong?
Yeah, it could be.
I just feel into it. It could be, but it could also be something else. So let's get clear. So what's that feeling now?
Just feels like I'm not worthy.
Is there possibly a sense that you can't have what you want?
Yeah.
But who controls that?
God.
Right. And do you think that you need to bargain with God to have what you want? Would God actually put you in a position to have to negotiate with him?
No.
Right. So what would God give you as his perfect divine child?
All of my good.
Everything. God gives you everything. All you need to do is release the belief that you can't have everything. So now knowing that, does it matter what you do or does it matter who you are?
That is who I am.
Right. And who are you?
I'm a child of God.
Yeah, you're a perfect divine child of God who has all her good all the time, that does not have to find her good on the external, but that will see evidence of her good on the external as she knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that her good is hers already. How does that feel?
That feels powerful.
Why does that feel powerful? Because you
It
are
feels
powerful. Because you are powerful. That's why it feels powerful. You didn't leave the call and go and plug into some power. That power was there the entire time, right?
yeah.
Right.
No,
How does that
I
feel?
guess I'm just seeing that now. Yeah.
Right. So how does that feel?
There's still something there.
That's okay that there's something there. I'm asking how it feels. We'll go to what else is there in a minute. I want to know what you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I feel good.
Good. Hang on to the good feeling. Let it sink in. You don't have to leave the good feeling to heal the next upset. Like the good is yours. You don't have to avoid your good because some other upset comes up. It's kind of like a few months ago when we were chatting to Anastasia and she was like, oh, but I need to find the next upset. No, you don't. You first need to ground in and integrate the good feeling that you just had. So now what's the something else?
I'm feeling a sense of injustice, rejection, maybe.
So why are you rejecting yourself?
I don't know.
Neither do I. Does your Father in heaven not accept you completely?
Yeah, he does.
So do you think you know better than God?
What?
Do you think you know better than God?
I guess in some part of myself, I feel like it.
Right, but do you think that you know better than God, or do you know that God's acceptance of you is so complete that you can't actually stuff this one up?
The second part.
Yeah, you can't stuff it up. All you need to do is release the illusion of rejection, because God's acceptance of you is complete and unconditional, and that's all you need right now. How does that feel?
It feels like relief.
Because you can't stuff up your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where does your power sit now?
In myself.
So what injustice is there in this space?
I guess I'm just asking myself why God was not there when I needed him to defend me.
Right. So you feel like God left you. So you're upset is with God for leaving you in the space where you needed to be defended.
Yeah.
But is that true? Would God leave you?
No.
So what would God give you?
Strength to defend myself.
Right. And the power and the knowledge and the strength and the conviction to know that you are protected, you are defended, you are safe under every and all circumstances. So knowing that, how does it feel?
More empowering.
Right. Because where did that empowered feeling come from?
From God.
Right. From your relationship and your connection to God. And does that ever actually leave you?
No.
Right. So can you allow that to just settle in and let us feel into the space of if there's more or if there's something else, without letting go of the good feeling that you have right now, okay?
Something else is coming up.
What is that?
It feels like hiding.
It feels like hiding.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're hiding from God or God's hiding from you? What are you talking about?
I feel like I am hiding my true self.
Does it serve you to hide your true self?
No.
So what choice can you make in this space?
Just to claim and honor my true divine self.
Awesome. How does that feel?
It feels much better.
Does it feel complete, or do you want to go deeper?
It feels complete.
Awesome. Thank you. Would you like to just allow all of that healing to just integrate and settle into your heart space, knowing that you're safe and loved?
Thanks.
Thank you. How's everybody else feeling? So who's got the next piece?
I think Ray has something to say.
Me, I don't know. I think for me, like I don't know. You put me on the spot here. I think like when we were talking about like this topic, it was something that like I had to just like really look at, because Stasia has, you know, told me multiple times like what she experiences. And, you know, as being someone's twin flame, like it's interesting, like you see it from like her perspective. Like I was seeing it from her perspective and like, okay, I'm trying to understand. And a lot of the things that she goes through, like I go through in terms of like the LGBTQ community, and what like how we're perceived and stuff, especially you know. And yeah, like I just was like watching like movies recently, like where so many times like the person of color is always like the one that that was like you know, seen as the bad guy or seen as like the person who is the villain. And like I was like watching like a 90s film, and like there's the token black person in there, and they're always like the one that's like the
It's not a good term. You always say it. It's just not a good term.
but like they're always the one that has like the attitude, or it's just like that's like how we're raised. And like we were even healing before this session, like in like my regards of like feeling normal, even though I'm LGBTQ. And so yeah, I guess like for people who like their partner is going through this kind of thing, like there's always something on the other side of the coin, I guess. And so like I was really healing through like a lot of the things that like Kanisha was healing and Stasia was healing and Irene was healing, but like on the LGBTQ side, because there's a lot of that in that regard. So yeah.
Thanks, Ray. So one of the things that we probably should have done right at the beginning of our call, but we can do this now, is just to welcome Morgan as well. So I am going to pop on you just for a little bit and see how you felt about today's conversation.
Thank you, Granville. I'm happy to be here. I'm just taking it all in right now. One thing came up for me since Kanisha started talking was my upset with my childhood, like you were talking about, Granville. Just because I went to a predominantly white school from elementary to middle school and high school, and my parents always told me like they wanted me to go to those schools just because they valued education. And it was just the belief that like I had to go to the white schools so that I could have a good education, because the area I grew up in Detroit, didn't have the best education. They still don't. And a lot of the places that are predominantly Black, just across the US, across the world even, it's not, I'm not going to say they don't value education, but the government doesn't give the schools the money to have, to give the kids like a valued education, or quality education rather. But my upset with my childhood, I just never felt like I could be myself, even as a kid. Like I always had to, I guess, hide. And it was always like, I was that Black girl in school with a class of other white kids. And so I did adapt, like Marley was talking about, like kind of trying to fit in. But I never felt like my true self. And it wasn't until college that I made a new choice. And I decided to go to school in Flint, Michigan, which was Black people. And I even joined a Black sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And now I attend a historically Black college, being in grad school. And I feel like I just wanted to find myself around Black people. And my parents just really instilled in me that like I wouldn't get a quality education without being around white people. And even with the corporate world, like my mom would always tell me that you know, you have to go to school with the white kids so that you can um like not really compete with them, but you would have a way to um, cope with white people when you work in corporate America. That was part of the reason she named me Morgan, because she didn't want me to have a quote unquote Black girl name. Because my mom told me that, well, when someone looks at your resume, I don't want them to judge you because your name is, a typical Black name, so that, you wouldn't get the job or something like that. So being an adult now, I just, like I said, I made a new choice and I feel so much better having chosen to, like I said, go to that historically Black college and being around Black people, even in my undergrad. It's made me feel like I can just truly be myself and I don't have to hide. But I remember my first year of college, I did go to a white university. Um, and I remember seeing all the Black kids that came from like the Detroit public schools, and they really struggled a lot just keeping up with everything with the curriculum we had in college. And it was kind of sad because I kind of felt guilty because I did well in school. Because I felt more prepared going to the white schools, but those my peers that didn't, they ended up dropping out. I graduated because I do feel like I was prepared, and I thank my parents for that, but at the same time it hurts me to know that like I had that opportunity and I was able to do well in school, but I just feel like as a community, Black communities somewhat don't value education, and that leads to poverty, that leads to like crimes, that leads to jail, and just all of these things that come with lack of education.
Mm.
Um, and it's
So one of the things I do want you to kind of just just feel into is feeling responsible for your brothers and sisters and to release that. Obviously, we have reached our hour. We can carry on chatting after the call. We have reached our hour, but I do feel like you've touched on quite significant components that impact people of color. And I think it would be great to continue to explore that next week. But for now, I also just want you to release the feeling responsible part and value what you were given, and know that God has that for everybody in whichever form it appears in their reality, if they choose to accept God's gifts. So you don't need to feel guilty for the gifts that you receive. How does that feel?
much better.
Awesome. Good. So I'm going to say thank you. I'm not cutting you off. I'm just saying that it's also healthy for all of us to respect the time of our participants through the comments and everything else. So definitely, I feel like it's something that we can explore and continue to talk about next week. But for today, I'm going to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Thank you for your contribution and the healing that you've allowed us to share with you. And also to anybody that's following us on our Church of Union YouTube channel, we'd like to invite you to continue to follow our conversations and like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel. You will find all our previous conversations around why Black Lives Matter, and you'll also find any other live discussions that have happened in Twin Flames Universe Open Forum, as well as the Church of Union, Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group. And we look forward to seeing all of you again next week. So thank you everybody for your participation and your contribution, and have a great week.